And so I think it's interesting because I've never met anybody that's successful who doesn't have their fair share of fears of limiting beliefs.
So to say that, hey, I want to grow in my career or I want to grow my business and I'm just going to avoid all the mistakes. It's like saying, I will go swimming and I don't want to get wet. So, two things. One, reframing that in your head for yourself. And the second one is reframing that for employer and making that your selling point.
All right, welcome back to this episode of the How to Get a Job podcast. Today, we have an amazing guest and an amazing topic. Look, if you're like me and if you're like everyone else, right, you must have limiting beliefs. You must have fears that is stopping you from reaching your full potential. And to talk about this and how to overcome your fear, how to overcome this limiting beliefs that we just all have, it's just part of our human nature. I have an amazing guest. I have Anna Belyaeva. She is the career coach and founder of the Career Diet, and she's just awesome. So, Anna, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I am doing really well. Really excited to kick off 2024. And thank you so much for having me. This is probably one of my favorite topics. And it's actually something in the beginning of my career, I didn't even realize that it was there, that limited beliefs and fears is something to continuously work through. So I'm very excited to talk about this topic today.
It's interesting because like this is I would say a topic that people don't talk about it or they don't talk to their friends and family about it because of the fear that they might have, like they're the only ones having it. And I think social media, of all the good that it does, this is probably one of the negative parts about it is that if we're comparing ourselves, I do this all the time. I had to literally unfollow or block people that would give me anxiety by looking at their content because I would be like, I feel like I work harder than them, but they're further away from me. And because social media only points people's highlight reel and it doesn't show the downs that comes with anything great, like whether it's pursuing your career or business or your fitness journey. And so I think it's interesting because I've never met anybody that's successful who doesn't have their fair share of fears of limiting beliefs.
Oh my gosh, so much to unpack here, Danielle. So I have noticed in my career as a career coach, having worked with hundreds of people, really from people who are really early out of school, early in their career, to people with decades of experience making multiple six figures. What I have realized very quickly that the thoughts that come up for them, no matter where they are in their career, the thoughts are actually the same. It's the same conversation that they have with themselves around whether I can do this, whether I'm good enough. It's just slightly different scenarios based on where they are, but the conversation is always there. And what you mentioned around seeing the highlight reel on social media, it's so true for all of us, and it's so true, I think, for all of us to see people who work, quote unquote, as you said, less hard, but they seem to be doing better or they seem to be more successful. And what I've learned over time is that you can work really hard. You can even be very smart. So you can do really well in school. You can work really hard, but that's still not the recipe for success. It's not enough. It's all the work that happens behind the scenes around your mindset and working through the limiting beliefs and fears that come up. That is what's going to actually help you to get to the next level.
Yeah, it's super interesting because I think about this a lot, and I've been thinking about this lately. I don't know if you guys knew this. If you're listening to this, I have a second podcast, and I don't really publish it or promote it. This is probably the most promotion I've ever had, and the podcast is called "How Grandpa Built It," and it's essentially just me documenting the journey of me building this family legacy business. And I don't even have kids, so I'm building a podcast for my grandkids without even having
Oh my
kids, right?
gosh, I love that so much.
And so I'm doing it because I'm trying to share some of the lessons or even some of the biggest lessons. One is because if I teach it, I actually learn it more myself. But two, because I want somebody like my grandkids to be able to avoid making some of the big mistakes that I will. Now they're going to make their own mistakes. It's not. There's no way of avoiding not making mistakes, right? So, and it's important for all of us to know, like everyone makes mistake. And the more successful somebody is, odds are they've just made more mistakes, and that just have learned from it. But what's really interesting is that no one ever great does anything. Nobody does anything great without making mistakes along the way. But also too that the biggest enemy we have is ourselves, is our limiting beliefs to be able to accomplish a goal. And I think it's really important. I try to think about practical advice that you can follow. And I always just challenge you, like if you feel like you're not qualified for a role, or I'm not qualified for that promotion, odds are you are. And you can easily check this by just going on LinkedIn and looking at people that currently hold the role that you have, or the role that you want, right? More importantly, and seeing what their qualifications are, because we've all seen it. Like at least I have, where you would look into somebody like I want to be a TEDx speaker, right? And I look at some of the people that have been TEDx speakers, and I'm like, well, I've done more with my life. I've gone through more interesting. I have more interesting things to say. So if they did it, nothing against them, good for them. I'm glad they did it. But why can I do it, right? And so I always want to look at the facts and not let my worst case scenario mind dictate my actions. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this too.
Yeah. Well, I love that you brought up mistakes because I have a very different view on mistakes. I don't actually believe that there's such thing as mistakes, because what's on the other end of a mistake? A solution. And
Hmm.
that's what we're looking for. So, in order for us to find a solution and to move forward, to move to the next level, we need a solution. And to get to that point, we need to make mistakes. So to say that, hey, I want to grow in my career or I want to grow my business and I'm just going to avoid all the mistakes. It's like saying, I will go swimming and I don't want to get wet, right? So it's it's part of it, but I think we were just never taught how to reframe those mistakes when they happen, and
Mm.
how to have this almost excitement for mistakes, because it means that you're getting one step closer to your solution. And when it comes to job search, there's so much, and we can definitely dive into it further and go through some of the fears that come up for people at different stages, and how they can reframe them.
I would love to. I would love to hear. I would love to understand how you see this too, right? Like, and how to overcome those fears more when it comes to the job search.
Okay. Well, um, let's maybe start maybe kind of at the beginning. So if you are early in your career, the fears that probably, or thoughts that are probably coming up for you are, well, can I actually do this? Am I good enough? Can I be as successful as someone who I see on LinkedIn? And people who follow me know that I used to be an international student. So on top of all of that, I had all of a whole other bag of fears that were connected to uh, English not being my first language. So being scared that I would forget English in the most important moment, or I would say something funny, or that I wasn't as good as other people, as good as the native speakers. So the biggest change for me was this early in my career, was reframing that to, well, what is it that I do have? What is it that, so I'm like really in the lack here, right? If I'm thinking about, I don't speak the language the same way, or I'm still early. So I'm focusing on the lack, and that's what we tend to do. But I started reframing it to, well, what is it that I do have?
Mm.
So In the language example, it can be, well, I speak other two languages. So that already makes me, if I can do this, I can go through school, I can work in a foreign language, and someone else can only do it in one language. That puts me already ahead of the curve. And it doesn't even need to be in me selling myself, but me in my head. If I can do it in a foreign language, I can do anything, is what I used to say myself to myself. Now, when it comes to job search and reframing that in job search, and that's actually something that I teach my students, my clients right now, is finding what's really you think is stopping you. So for me, again, it was, I thought, the language aspect. So finding that, and instead of trying to hide it, so that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to blend in. I wanted to have the same last name as everyone else and sound like everyone else. Instead, I started bringing this up in my tell me about yourself. One of the points would always be, I've lived in 5 countries, I speak 3 languages, and I have built social and professional networks from scratch multiple times. So that is one of the most important aspects for someone in sales. And for a long time in my career, I was in sales. And that means that I will be extremely successful in this role. So I would bring it up and I would make it my selling point. And that's what I teach my students as well. Really take what you think is stopping you, that fear. So that can be your language. That can be, I had someone with a stutter. I had a mom of 3 kids who thought that having kids would prevent her from having very senior roles. So how do we reframe that? And how do we make what you think is stopping you your selling point? I would really like dig really deep there and really sit with it. So 2 things. One, reframing that in your head for yourself. And the second one is reframing that for employer and making that your selling point.
It's so interesting because I've noticed something really similar where your weaknesses actually become a competitive advantage.
Oh,
Right,
yes.
what we think is our weakness in your situation, you thought was like, hey, I'm not American, I have an accent, I might forget English. Original weakness has become your competitive advantage. I lived in 5 countries, I know multiple languages, I understand social, like, I understand socially how to deal with not only different type of people but different type of cultures, and that obviously brings a whole new element of emotional intelligence that doesn't happen unless you've experienced living in different countries and dealing with different types of people that come from living in different countries. And same thing for me, like when you embrace that competitive advantage of what makes you unique, is what's going to really stand you out. I wish I could take credit for this quote. It's not definitely not mine. I'm not that smart. But there's a quote that, like, at least in the United States, that we spend our whole life, like, from kindergarten to high school, once we graduate high school, all we're trying to do is fit in because we think that's what's cool. But then
Mm-hmm.
we realize that after high school, the only way to be successful is to stand out, right? It's not to have the same Jan Sport backpack that everyone else has, or to have the same Air Force ones that everyone else has. Like, it's probably not relevant now, but that's what was cool back in 2008 in my high school years. And whenever you decide to be different, that's what makes you special, because the only way you're going to get different results than the average person is by doing things differently than the average person. And so you should definitely embrace yourself, like that the person that you are at home should be the same type of person that you are at work. And I think that goes back to, I know this is not about limiting beliefs, but when people are afraid to be a little bit of themselves on LinkedIn, and they're like, oh, LinkedIn is a professional network. And I'm like, no, because yes, there's going to be some companies that are going to be turned off by it. Some recruiters, some hiring managers who are not going to want to talk to you. But on the flip side, there's going to be some that are going to want to talk to you even more. And that's going to be the reason why they even want to have a conversation with you, which then can lead to a job. And I love that you share your example of your limiting beliefs with the language, which then turn out to be a massive competitive advantage, because I do think that that's the case for most people that I've met and I worked with as clients. And like, I think a lot about the international STEM student audience that I work with, where they have very similar beliefs, where, and I tell them, like, you have work ethic that's unmatched, you have multiple languages, you're passionate about this technical programming language, where a lot of people just did the major in America because their parents told them they should be an engineer, and not because they love to be an engineer. And so you're passionate about it, and you shouldn't hide that. You shouldn't hide your geekiness. In fact, that's a really massive positive that you should be embracing. And the fact that you said, "Hey, I just did it in my elevator speech, and I brought it to light," and in fact, that made it into a positive. I think that's a really great best practice. That if you're listening, you should figure out what that is, and do a SWOT analysis on yourself. And if you don't know what that is because you didn't go to business school, just Google it. And SWOT stands for strength, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. And you'll see what are your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and bring that up. And don't be afraid of that. And I love how you think about this, Anna. You're like, it's super amazing.
I love that you brought up this other component, because something that I work with my clients on is discovering what their a big part of actually of what I do with my clients is discovering what their dream career is. And that's where you really need to be very truthful to yourself around who you are, what is true to you, what you believe in, what's important to you, how you work best. Because in order for you to find the right match, so when you find the right match, it means that A, you will be happy, you will feel fulfilled, you will feel like you're in the right place. But most importantly, or I guess as equally importantly, you will thrive because it is a good match. So if you are, as you said, geeky, or if you are introverted, if you want to work with people, you want to work alone, you don't need to hide that. Because if you do make it part of what you want for your career to be, you're just setting yourself up for success. Because you you're setting yourself up for success because again here you're doing something that you enjoy doing because you're in a scenario where you enjoy it, and you're setting yourself up for success to actually do well there.
I love that. I would love us to transition, right? Because I think we've covered a lot of great ways to overcome your fears and your limiting beliefs. But then, how do we go from there, from being a fearful, like afraid to apply for those roles? We're our biggest enemy to becoming the ultimate candidate.
Okay. Okay. So I actually want to share a story here. And that's really how I myself learned about what it means to be that ultimate candidate. And it kind of started a couple of months into business school. And I was just at the very, very beginning. It just felt like we just started school. And my friend tells me that he just got an offer from Procter and Gamble to do brand management for them for CoverGirl. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I feel kind of jealous here. And I'm definitely shocked because it's just been a couple of months and you already have this huge offer. I'm not even getting interviews yet, let alone, big offers with Procter and Gamble. And what I had to do at that point is just settle for a job that I could get. But I'm ambitious, I'm a little bit stubborn. So I thought, okay, I will crack the code. I will crack the hiring code. And I asked my friend and I said, "Well, how did you get this offer from Procter and Gamble so quickly?" And he says, "Networking." And I go, "I hear you. Got it. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to learn." So for the next 2 years, I actually spent all of my free time learning how to network and being out there. I went to like a couple of events every single week. I had multiple meetings every single week. And it became easy, it became fun, and I was getting in the door easily. I was getting interviews easily. And I thought, well, this is it. This is it. I got it. I cracked the code. Until a few years later, I was actually working in recruitment. So I switched careers and I went into recruitment. And I realized working in recruitment that what happens behind the scenes is not even what I was ever privy to and really understood. And this is where it really clicked for me that this entire time I was asking myself like the wrong question. This entire time I was thinking, how do I impress them? How do I impress the interviewer? How do I impress the employer? And employers want to be impressed, but it turns out that the kind of person that employers are looking for every single day, and in recruitment, we were trained to look for that person, it's a different breed. It's a different breed. Yes, they do want people who network. They want people who reach out to them directly. They want people who sell themselves in a strategic way. But they also, this is the most important piece here, they want someone who is confident, someone who knows that they have options. There's nothing more attractive to the employer than when you have options. They just go crazy. Um, there is that special breed is also someone who knows what they want. It's someone who doesn't just go and say yes, doesn't go for every job and say yes to every job, but someone, when they talk to you, the employer, they're assessing, well, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to ask you challenging questions because I'm assessing if this is the right opportunity for me. So back to what we talked about being geeky or being introverted. So I'm always assessing, is this right for me? And again, it's so attractive for the employers. So they want someone who, the special breed, someone who doesn't hesitate to say, this is the kind of compensation I'm looking for with confidence, like no dancing around or beating around the bush. So this special breed is what employers are just so incredibly attracted to looking for, and this is the type of candidate that in recruitment we used to call star candidates. So I talk a lot in my content about star candidates because becoming this person, becoming this star candidate, so again, someone who's confident, someone who is challenging the employer, someone who is assessing the opportunity, that is what's going to take you from, I have, I land interviews easily, I have a decent career, to being someone who is in demand, someone who gets headhunted, and someone who really feels like they're in control of their career. And that kind of really what happened to me as well. So when I started viewing job search as a really, we're on the same level here with the employer. So once I made that shift in my head, I started showing up differently. I started speaking about myself differently. My confidence was different. So I went from, okay, I easily get in the door, to now I'm being headhunted. Now I'm living abroad and I'm being headhunted for six-figure jobs, and I can choose the roles that I want. So really the key here is becoming this candidate, becoming this star candidate.
So much of what you're saying, like, it's so amazing because like we see it in our candidates that when they receive one job offer and they're in the process with other companies, then go and just get offers in the other job. So like they could have gone to three interviews before this, not gotten the job, go to the fourth interview, got the job, happen to have two more interviews after, and then get the two other offers and walk away with three offers. And one thing would be like, oh, if it happened once, maybe it's luck. And we've been doing this for over 5 years full time with my team and I. I've been doing this for 10 years, and it happens all the time, more often than not. And so, to your point, is because once you have one offer, the level of confidence when you go into the second interview is so much higher that the
Nothing changed.
managers and
Nothing changed. It's just
yeah,
in
your
terms of
background didn't change, your resume didn't change. All the only thing that changed was your demeanor and your self belief of your confidence in yourself, right? And I think it has to do with when. So I think a lot about why that is the case. Like, if nothing changed, your networking messages, the templates that our clients are using is not changing. The mock interviews that we do with our clients didn't change. The only factor was the belief in yourself. And I think that's really amazing. And so I think about that. Okay, what about that? Why would a change in the candidate's confidence level make such a dramatic difference in the output or the offer or not offer? And you said it. I think more important than the hiring team wanting someone with offers, it's not because they want to go in a bidding war with somebody else. It's because hiring someone is a big decision. It's a risk. There's always a risk reward. And whenever I know as a hiring manager that, and I used to work at Pepsi, right, or PepsiCo. If I know that this candidate also got a job offer from Coke or from
Ooh.
even a smaller company, the reason why I would want them more is because now I feel like another qualified hiring manager also sees the same thing I see on this candidate. Therefore, it minimizes my decision risk because I have more data points to say, okay, this person is a good candidate. And so I think that's why it's so important to have the belief in the beginning of it, right? And there's some work that needs to happen to that to overcome those fears and limiting beliefs, kind of we talked about earlier today. But it's so true. And also to making sure that you're applying in the right place, having clarity in the job search. And I think a lot of people skip that step because they're just so eager to start applying and networking and interviewing without even knowing if you're applying to the right company and or the right opportunity or role or whatnot. So really love how you think about it and the things that are required to become an all-star candidate or a star candidate like you were mentioning, and that's amazing. I would love as we wrap it up, and if you can share maybe a little bit more about your story, about what you do, and how do you work with job seekers?
Hmm. Well, I am a career coach and I am the founder of the Career Diet. So we help you to discover and land your dream career. And that can look like switching careers. That's actually something I did myself twice, from accounting to design to recruitment. So I very much firsthand know the challenges that come with career change. I have also, and I mentioned that in one of my stories, that I was headhunted for six-figure jobs abroad. So, very much the strategies that I teach, I have been through myself in my own job search experience. And I also didn't learn job search just from my own experience. I was in recruitment for a number of years, recruiting for the top employers in the country. So again, I know that insider knowledge of how employers think, what are they looking for? And a few years ago, almost 4 years ago now, I made another shift to now entrepreneurship. So now inside the Start Canada program, we have helped now over like almost 1,000 people inside our courses and programs to discover and land their dream career. And this has been with the Career Diet. It has been an incredible journey, from just starting an Instagram account with really no plan of what I wanted to do. I just wanted to share what I learned in my own journey, to now being a LinkedIn learning instructor, to being featured in the major publications like Business Insider, CNBC, to being globally recognized as a career coach, having audience of over 300,000 people across social media. So it's been a wild journey, but seeing this transformation with my clients is the best part. Seeing this lamp go on, that oh, I am that star candidate, and I do have a choice. I can't say no. I can't be picky. I can't go after the big job. And it really, what we talked about earlier today, it really all starts with the mindset piece, and that's where we always start with my clients inside my coaching program, the Star Candidate. That's where I turn you into the Star Candidate. So it's my baby. It's something that I'm very proud of. And for me, it's not just the transformation. It's not just the big job that you get, and we get, people get jobs with offers with 5K more or 55K more than they were making before. It's not just that, but it's how they speak about themselves, how they think about themselves. It's that transformation that just makes me very proud. So that's about me. That's what I do, and that's what I teach.
Love it, Anna. Thank you so much for sharing that. If people want to learn more about the Star Candidate program that you have, where can they go and learn more about that?
You can head to thecareerdiet.com/yes. That's probably the easiest way to find it. And you can always shoot me a message on Instagram at the Career Diet, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Anna. I'm going to also put a links to your social and your website on the show notes, so easy access for everyone listening. Look, if you're listening to this, if you know someone that has been dealing with the fear or limiting beliefs that's stopping them, you see the talent in them, you see the potential in them, but maybe they're lacking, they're lacking seeing it for themselves. Share this episode. This is the best way for one to help your friend, but two to help the podcast grow. We don't run ads here, so we really appreciate all the support by just sharing this episode with one person that you think that could be valuable, that needs to hear this message about overcoming limiting beliefs, their fears, and ultimately learning more about becoming a star candidate and being able to get those not only one offer but multiple offers, and then gaining the leverage for yourself. I would also encourage you to follow Anna on social media. As you can see, she's fantastic. So again, thank you all so much for listening. Anna, thank you for being here, and catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.